post-conversation, thank you patrons for helping us, for making your strikes and attacks to defeat our monsters. Adam is here for the post-conversation today, obviously, after the show, the beautiful show. And I actually have a topic to start. Did you ever... so the topic is about often people have the best experience with their favorite game, or their favorite experience, their favorite moment with their favorite game. It's not my case. Like, my favorite game is Apocalypse World, but my favorite experience, it's not with that game. Do you have like different things like me, or...
Yeah, I mean the big example for me is we did a show on roleplay called Mirror Shades, and Mirror Shades is the first edition Shadowrun game that we played. And Shadowrun's not a very first edition Shadowrun's not a very well designed game. It's got a really interesting setting, but the systems are pretty kludgy, and the game has gotten worse and worse over time. It's kind of like, yeah, it's very clunky. There's some good stuff. There's some good stuff in the first one, but the reason that I liked it so much is because it was so like off the rails, and because it ended up going in a direction that nobody expected, and we ended up having a lot of fun with it, even though Shadowrun's not that great a game, because the group was so good and because we did some mechanical work. We changed the game, right? We added a new system for giving out experience, and yeah, and it really worked out. It was really nice, and I think that it goes to show that you can have really positive experiences playing games, even if they're not the game you're familiar with, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like, it's fun to see, because there are a lot of conversations about designing RPG, the product, the people, because RPG with no people, it does not work. So but sometimes what is really more important? Is it the game itself? Are the people? Are both things so important at the same level? It's hard to.
I mean, people are gonna say. I think that the game is very important. I think that people are more important because you can play a bad game with good people and have fun. I think you can play a game with good game but with bad people and not have fun. So I think that the people are what make the game live or die. Otherwise, it's all academic. But I also think that it's like ingredients, right? Like, if you have a great recipe but bad ingredients, you will not be able to make good food. You cannot make something good, no matter how perfect the recipe is. It may be the recipe for the perfect food, but if your ingredients are all rotten and bad, you can't make anything good out of them. And I think that in this case, the ingredients are the players, or the people you're playing with, and the recipe is the game. You want a good recipe. A good recipe will help you get the best out of your ingredients, but it's more important that you have the right things, because you can improvise. You can change the recipe, and you can build something new. But it's obviously more work. So I would rather have good, dedicated, interested players, and then make the game like with Shadowrun, make the game work for us, than have the perfect game but players who weren't invested, who weren't having fun, who weren't interested.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like the example in the show regarding Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, you can have fun with your group, but Call of Cthulhu is not that awesome game.
It's not helping. Yeah, exactly.
It does not help, but you are having fun with it. But it's the people, not the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think that's fine. You can play any game with the right group and have a great time. But I would rather that people played good games with good people. Like, you can have both, so why not, right? Yeah. You don't need to pick. You don't have to pick one or the other.
Adam, did you ever try it? I think you have. Hall of Magic.
Yes. Yeah. I've played it a bunch of times. It's so good.
It's my favorite experience. Like, I have my favorite game, which is Apocalypse World, and I played once Fall of Magic. It blew my mind. The experience, the people, the setting, the mood, the place, the time, the zone, everything, the planes, everything set up to be the very best experience I had. It's a beautiful and quite contemplative game.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's
There's
poetic.
something very beautiful about it. Yeah, Ross is working on a sequel to it. There's going to be
Yes.
another one, Winter something or other. Yeah.
An actual because there's a
Yeah.
Kickstarter right now live where it's a zine where with Fall of Magic game you can replay it in a more significantly way, more different
Yeah, cool.
way. Yeah, it's up right now. I don't remember the name of the Kickstarter, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, he's actually working on like a direct sequel. It's
Oh,
meant, I think,
awesome.
originally, and I don't know if Ross is going to do this, but I think the intent is that it's going to be 4 games, right? It's Fall of Magic, Winter of something, Spring of something, and then Summer, right? Like it's meant to be one of each season. So there's a second one that he's working
Makes
on.
sense.
So, yeah.
Oh, that I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yeah, that was the original plan. I don't know if Russ is still like planning on doing that, but that's
Yeah.
last time I heard that was the deal.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now,
Yeah.
regarding rules, Adam, I have one question that it's really controversial. Like, what
yeah.
are your feelings about the golden rule? Now, I left. I
I
left this
hate
one.
it.
I left this one outside of the stream for a reason because.
Oh, I hate it so much.
But why?
It's
Adam?
the worst.
It's so good.
No, it's so bad. It's so for people who are not familiar.
I'm being
the
ironic.
Golden rule.
Obviously. Yeah.
The golden rule is this thing that started popping up in games that said basically. Now it started with Dungeons and Dragons and Gary Gygax saying that the rules of Dungeons and Dragons are guidelines for dungeon masters. You should follow them. Play the game the way I wrote it, but change it for your group. Right? You are the dungeon master of your group. Gary understood that every group is going to be a little different and they're going to have your own desires and stuff. So change it for your group, with your group, to make it fit them. Somehow it slowly mutated into this thing where at the beginning of a game, someone would say the most important rule number 0, the golden rule, is that the rules don't matter. And if you don't like a rule, ignore it or just make something up or whatever. And it's like, no, the rules do matter. They're the game. Without the rules, you're just playing make-believe and you don't need the game. And it's like you're making something for someone and you want to sell it to them. And then when they buy it, you're telling them, you don't need this. You could just, it's like if every Marvel movie started with like, this is the story of Captain America, but if you don't like it, you can just make up your own. You don't even have to go to the movies. And it's like, no, I'm here for you to tell me about Captain America, you ass. Don't tell me that I don't need the movie. I know I can just make up my own Captain America stories. So it's this thing that justifies in it, depending on how it's phrased, it can justify the GM getting to make up the rules and not play by them, to cheat, essentially. That the GM gets to just decide how things go. It really skews the way that play works. We all sit down and we agree we are going to play this role-playing game together. And if one of the players is allowed to just make shit up and not play by the rules, then we're not really playing a game anymore. Yeah. And I think that that's so important. I think the golden rule really undermines that. I think it's BS. I hate it. I will never agree with it. I think that if you don't like something in a game, change it, but don't do it just because you don't like it. Talk to your players. Because if I say, I don't like that characters in D&D have 3 death saves, I think instead you should just die when you hit 0 hit points. My players might not agree with that. They might say, actually, it gives us some room to like strategize, and I think it works good. The balance is fun for us. I'm one person. I don't get to make that call myself. I can posit the idea, but the group has to agree that that's what we want to do, because otherwise we've sat down to play this game and now I've changed the rules, right? So I just think it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to put it in the game. I get where they're coming from. I understand why it's in there, but I think that there are games that have done a much better job of explaining that premise than just saying the rules don't matter, because they do. They really matter.
Yeah, it's almost like an excuse if my
an
game
excuse-
sucks, just
Yes.
play whatever you want.
Yeah, it's an excuse for bad design, right? Because it's like, well, we just made this game the way it is, and if you think that one of the rules is bad, well, it's your job to fix it. And it's like, no, you paid me to make this game. You bought this game, so fix it. And the other thing I think is that often these games that put the golden rule in, they don't give you, like, there is a ton of stuff that you can and should change about Dungeon World. If you don't like the races, you should be able to change them. If you don't like the classes, change them. If you don't like the monsters, make your own. But we gave you tools to do that, right? We made a whole chapter for making your own stuff, and that's what we want for the game. But there are games, and this is the thing I like about Burning Wheel. Burning Wheel is the anti-rule of cool. It's the anti-golden rule, because Luke basically says, if you don't like something about Burning Wheel, stop playing it. Get out of my house. Right? Because it's like, no, the game is, it's done. And I think that's frustrating too, because if you don't like something about Burning Wheel, like tough shit, you can't, it's a Swiss watch, right? You can't take one gear out without the whole thing coming apart. It's a delicate engine. And I can definitely see why people would be frustrated by that, because I think there's extremes to these things. But I definitely believe that yes, empower people to be game designers, empower them to design for their group, empower them to hack the games they're playing, but do it in a responsible way. Give them those tools, and then tell them to do it with their group. Tell them to work with their group. Don't just do it because they think in the moment that they could do better. And I think that's really important.
That was beautiful, Adam.
It's
already,
it's the worst. It's the worst rule. I hate it. I don't ever want to see it in a game again. But every time I see it in a game, I'm just like, oh, why? Why does this exist?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, but it's here, and unfortunately, it's here in the community. And
you know what? Keep it in your game. You know, but write it the way you mean it, right? Like, Zweihander has it. Zweihander says, if you don't like the rules of this game, that sucks, I guess, because you just bought it. But like, change it, and here's how to change it, and change it with your group. It talks about that.
Yeah, that's
you know, like if you want to start your game by saying like, hey, our game sucks, and if you don't like it, you can make your own game. But like, I know that already. You don't have to remind me. Like, thanks, but I don't need your permission.
That is beautiful, man. Really. Yeah. Now, I know you have to go, so thank you so much, Adam, for this after talk. Thank you, patrons, for giving us the opportunity to give you back quality content. So, kisses for you all. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you, everybody.